So I really just wanted to talk more about what I was talking about yesterday and open it up to questions. So since it's a pretty small group, you being really the only one that I've not met yet, feel free to stop me at any point, or if you have specific questions, I'm happy to ask. I can show you some whizzy cool little things that we do with our technology too, but I thought I'd just kind of go through the principles and then interrupt me at any point, okay? So the system was really designed around this idea of addressing 3 critical questions that producers ask. So is my animal sick or injured? Is she in heat, or is she missing? And those are really the fundamental questions that HerdDogg's system is attempting to work on. And so these 3 symbols, the plus, the flame, and the question mark cow, are what we use for data insights in the system, throughout the system. They indicate whether an animal is any one of these specific things. And so you'll see that same icon and color scheme happen throughout the service. Heat detection, like I talked about yesterday, it really comes down to catching anomalies in individual animal baseline. So when her baseline changes, which is very clear in our data, we're able to identify that as a heat change, most likely because it's sustained activity level over time. Likewise with illness, we have spike in temperature, drop in activity level. So there's elements in all of those sort of recipes around how we use our algorithms to deliver insights. We don't really claim the insights are absolute, because ultimately it's up to the producer to take a look at that animal and say that's for sure. Maybe maybe it's delivering non-insightful data on that particular time. We did a test around heat detection in Colorado dairy, and the results that we post here are really based on those results. So we did blood testing. We were looking at the progesterone level spikes or decrease based on those figures, and what we were coming up with in terms of our heat detection in the system. We were able to basically look at and conclude that we were at about 97% accurate. Some of the accuracy points against us were we actually found heats out of cycle, which is for a dairy kind of a something they wouldn't be even looking at necessarily. So that was kind of a discount to our accuracy because they were out of cycle. And then somebody asked me about this yesterday, so just to go in a little bit further, if you're missing a heat cycle in dairy, you're having to feed that animal. They're not getting back into the routine of productivity, so you're paying for that feed and the care of the animal over the course of another 21 days. So you're adding to your overall cost, feed cost and maintenance cost, which add up to about $3 a day per animal. So by just missing one heat, we or by seeing a heat earlier than it would normally be detected on a dairy, we can save a producer more than the cost of the service on an annual basis. Same thing, I mean, I talked about this yesterday, but really what we're looking for is the anomalies in the data, as you saw in both the video and this. The video, we did clearly have an ill animal, and that was not something that the producer would ever know, because most of the time they're just out running around in the field and he's not looking that closely at any one of them. Behavior-based data, it really, to reiterate what I said yesterday, this is interesting to us because we begin to see whole animal perspective. So the tags deliver biometrics and environmental-based information on the animal. She's got an activity level X, she's got a heat level of X, but it's really hot out today, so we're going to see stresses around that, or it's very cold. So we were able to put some perspective around the environment. But the really interesting thing with the Dogbone is being able to merge that with metadata related to the herd. So what's the herd in general doing? Or maybe everybody stops coming to the watering trough because the water is bad. Or so there's all these elements around the life and experience that the animal has beyond her biometrics that we're really excited about digging into, because it certainly helps us as a company, provide better service to our producers. Mentioned this yesterday, we've focused on patents first and white paper second. So, some criticism to us is we don't have a lot of research, third-party advocacy at this stage of the game. And the reason is because there's always a gray area around who's discovered what. So we want to be on the very front end of that and not on the back end of that, because it creates some gray area later on. So black and white for us is very important. Patenting early, patenting discoveries where we can, and then we follow up with white papers like we're going to be doing at Fresno. The service, generally what we do is we have a starter kit. The starter kit is the Dogbone plus 25 tags in the box. It's $1,000, and it basically packages up and goes out to the producer. We put some cute little quotes on it because that's just part of who we are as a company. And yeah, you can get this delivered to you at your house, take it out of that box, and essentially be able to start using it. Some of the interesting things about the tag itself is the temperature sensor. Temperature sensors on the back, and the rest of the sensors are sort of built into the plastic housing. It does turn on. The Dogbone is basically set out in the field. It's intended to operate for 7 days. You just put it out in the field with the animals where they congregate, and then the data's collected. It's pretty dumb. I mean, it's just there's a few flashing lights on it, but for the most part, it just does what it does. It's not intended to be something you have to mess too much with. The Dogbone or the phone can collect data. So if you're out in the field, you could say, oh, I need to look at animal 321, and you could pull her up on your app and collect her data and look directly at the data on your phone. But for the most part, the Dogbone is muscle. You put it out in the field, it's there to collect data whenever and however it can, according to which animals come within range. The range on this is 30 feet right now, but the technology that's already in the Dogbone is extendable to about 150 meters. So we're looking at doing more testing around beef later this year, where we can really start to extend the range of the Dogbone and reach animals that are farther away from that particular location, if that's necessary. Dairies are fortunate in that they've got a lot of technology already focused in those areas, and it is because there's structure, right? There's infrastructure. Exactly. So that's kind of an easier solution to solve. So, for us, dairy is we can address it through cost, and we can be the cost leader in this space, and simplicity. So working and making a tool that's accessible for a smaller dairy, which I would like to see more stay around. So everything we could do to help them in that regard. But on the other hand, being able to address some of the more expansive data collection challenges that we have working with beef producers or goats or sheep. We have one site in Wyoming that's interested in testing blackhorn sheep disease, because there's no clear way for them to do that right now. And then fertility in wild animals is a big unknown. So there's a lot of opportunity for us, I think, as far as applying the technology in other areas. But our focus this year is to do the starter kit, and then the SkyDog, which is basically Dogbone tied to a drone. There's no interactivity. It's just physically connected to the drone, and then the dog dot, which will be just like a button tag with less information on it, faster speed for connectivity, and cheaper. So those are, let's go back. Those are really our focuses this year, and I think, do you have any questions so far? No? And then, on the data side, you saw the heat detection, and I talked about the Happy Herd Index yesterday. For us, the index is a way in which to allow producers to benchmark, and it's not intended to be judgment in any way. It's really to provide them a tool that gives them, because I know producers obsess about, the reports that come out from USDA on pricing and various and sundry other elements, but to be able to kind of have personal feedback within their own operation, we thought was pretty interesting. And also, to just, as I mentioned yesterday, to start to put more metrics around, whole herd health and happiness. Does the Dogbone collect all day long?
Well, on the tag.
The tags store 5 days of data, and the Dogbone, as often as it sees the tag, gets the data off the tag, and it only takes what it hasn't seen. So if it's been a day, it'll take a day's worth of data. If it's been 3 days, it'll take 3 days worth of data. We really, our optimum is every 4 hours. So if the tag is seen every 4 hours, that's what we would like to see, because for us, our data insights and algorithms are essentially real time. And if you have more time than that, then you're really delaying your outcomes. So our goal would be to get seen 4 times a day if you're a beef cow, and really, throughout the operation if you're a dairy cow, just as often as possible. And the other thing with the dog bones is being able to report tracking. So the more we are, especially in a dairy environment, the more they're checking in or being seen by a dog bone, the more we can create sort of patterns of their movement. Let's see if I can pull something up on that. I don't know. We just did a big installation, but what we're doing is really creating a pattern of the animal's visits throughout the farm during the day, so you can start to overlap, and that for us is kind of ideal for tracking, because then you set an algorithm around her expected behavior, and if she's outside of that, then we get notified accordingly. So, any questions?
What were some of the other things that, sorry, I can't hear myself very well. What were some of the other things in the Happy Herd Index? What all does that address?
Yeah, so the Happy Herd Index is, it's based on baseline ear temperature of an animal. So every human, animal, and so forth has a different baseline. So we capture that baseline, and then we maintain what that normal is to ensure that that animal is monitored effectively, and likewise activity level. And then we can start to look at, based on that level of activity, are they a milk cow, or are they a beef cow, or are they a cow in India versus South Africa, and really start to hone in on variances based on location and breeds and so forth. What was I doing here?
Does it use it as a catting tool?
What's that?
Does it use a lot as a catting tool? As
Do
far
we-
as determining cows born,
Say that again once more.
have you used it as a tool to determine when they're going to start calving?
Oh, we've done some. It's the calving issue for us has been the motion and birthing process on animals is really distinct. So we haven't had enough cows birthing to be able to say that pattern is absolutely birthing pattern. But yes, it's very much in our roadmap to really get to a point where that would be our 4th cornerstone of those questions that we ask: health, heat, tracking, and calving. Calving for beef, I know, is a very important thing, and you guys spend like 6 weeks without having any sleep at all because everybody's out checking all the time. How long have we been working on them? About 3 years. So the product has gone through several iterations. Quite frankly, the biggest challenge is durability, and comfort and durability on the animal, because there's so many strange and wonderful experiences that they have along the way. Lots of fluids, and so for us it was really trying to get that to a point where it's hardened enough that we could sell it in the marketplace. That's a pretty significant challenge.
Do you have any problems keeping them in place?
Not anymore. We did at the start, I mean, it was everything you could ever imagine, from plastics to electronics. Having electronics on an ear on an animal is a pretty challenging thing. So, you know, being able to seal it, being able to know when it fails, what's happened to the failure. So that was definitely a process for us. And we were, as I mentioned yesterday, we were on a reality TV show, so we were early, very early public. And so people have been kind of tracking our progress along the way, and it's not, it's certainly not something, once you do that, you're not in stealth anymore. And so there's always been natural and wonderful pressure on us to get the product into the market faster. So it's definitely been a balance for us. What's that?
What's the life?
2 years. 2 years, yeah. And the 2 years was purposeful because the technology is what it is right now. The acceleration and improvement and innovation is happening so quickly, we can barely keep up with it. But we're getting to a point where what we needed from the very start, what is sort of the optimum solution is very close. So within the next 6 months, I think we'll have a product that, you know, stably could be completely effective for 10 years and do all the things that we wanted it to do over that period of time. I mean, there's obvious nuances, but being able to find your animal wherever they are, that's the biggest and holiest of grails in our technology. You know, there's been a lot of companies in our space over the past 10 to 15 years, and there's a lot of them that have gone away because it's hard to stay persistent, and it's hard to stay in choose a technology that you can see will have a future. I think we've been really successful in that regard. We picked a good technology that it iterates quickly, but is also in everybody's phone. So there's a lot of opportunity for us, and really backwind, you know. So we're not really doing this on our own. We've got good partners in this space to help us momentum of the market.
What are you finding in your service requirement, not just with the tags and everything, but like as far as using the app and understanding the data?
We need to do a better, we've been so in it for so long, we need to do a better job of working with our producers to make sure there's no gray areas around how to use a service. We're starting to look at kind of the analytics of the user and understanding where they are in the service, and how we can help them understand more of the details and the corners of the product that they may not be looking at directly. Like the one that I was hoping to show you, which was, you know, around an animal's track during the day, which, you know, for us right now, it's a learning process for our producers. It's a new concepts like sites that we're bringing into this. So we want to make sure that we do that in conjunction with them, because it's easy to make assumptions around users that could be entirely wrong. So that's kind of the next wave with what we're doing now is tweaking our site and improving our product online so that it's more accessible to producers faster, so they don't have to stretch into new areas to use it. I mean, we're big on making it simple.
Do you have any kind of like training module thing that?
We have a knowledge base,
Okay.
so we've established a knowledge base in our service. We also offer chat, so if you want to
Okay.
go on the service and you're stuck on something, the tech goat can talk to you. He's pretty awesome. And the support cow. So we have tech
cool.
goat and support cow right there for you guys.
Perfect. That's her name.
Yeah, tech goat's my favorite. He's a pretty cute picture. So I think that's, I mean, from the standpoint of my presentation, that's it.